Getting hit multiple times coming out of that bike section. More drivers coming to blows.
Greetings, race fans, and welcome back to Sim Racers Group Formula 4 Racing on SMB. JR Gregory here with you on the call. Beside me in the commentary booth, it's Miller time. Kennen Miller and tonight's producer, Marty Czekala. As season 2025, season 3 rolls on, week 3 takes us from upstate New York into the American heartland. Located just outside Lexington, Ohio, the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course opened in 1962, and in over 60 years since has played host to almost every major series in North America: ALMS, ARCA, Can-Am, Kart, IndyCars, Trans Am, Pirelli World Challenge, and many, many more. Today's configuration: 2.4 miles, 3.6 clicks, 13 corners. The current record is a 105.260 by Will Power all the way back in 2016. That was in a DW12 IndyCar, of course. And by way of comparison, our current IMSA GTP cars are running about 6 seconds off of that, and GT3 cars are running at about 120. So Kennen, after opening the season at Lime Rock, these cars got let off the leash a little bit last week at the Glen, and we're going to reel them back in tonight at Mid-Ohio with some Twite and Twisty, or Tight and Twisty, depending on your preferences on how the English language is used. But what are you looking for out of these cars and drivers tonight?
Yeah, JR, this Mid-Ohio course is a premier course in all of America. It's a very wild roller coaster ride from start to finish. It's super technical, very high speed corners, very low speed corners. There's even a couple off camber corners through turns 4 and turn 7, the S's they call it, and it really provides a big mix for everything. It's one of the great places to race. It limited passing opportunities. We will see some good side-by-side racing with a good, slightly underpowered car in the Formula 4 car. It allows for a little better side-by-side racing. Certainly a wide track, just the way it runs off camber, you look at the apexes, it makes it quite difficult to really make an overtake easy.
Yeah, for sure. And I got out here to do some laps earlier today, and I got to say, this F4 car absolutely shines on this track. It was a total blast. And, I understand that it's only 160 horsepower. It's not going to rip your head off in acceleration, but the mechanical grip and the smoothness with which this F4 car goes over these rolling hills in Mid-Ohio, it was absolutely awesome. And I felt pretty comfortable pretty quick and was able to put down some decent laps. So I really think part of the game today, Kennen, is going to be about precision, particularly in this first corner. And we are going to see it right here. You see that curb there separating the pit entry from the track, and you gotta kind of get right on that on every lap. And if you overslow just a little bit with somebody behind you, you're going to get your doors blown off in this section right here.
Yeah, turn 1, it's really the one corner where it's gonna determine who can push their limits the furthest. You really can carry a lot of speed through there, but if you get the line wrong, it's very easy to find yourself off drivers right into the grass. So you don't want to get out there. It seems like it's smooth grass. There are some very big bumps. I was in a race earlier this week and actually watched myself look at the entire underside of an Indy car as they went off through that grass. So it's very dangerous. It's very treacherous. It's very high speed. We see Van Wagner going through turn 6 there, getting ready to come through the S's. Another corner where it really makes it seem like you need to take a lot, and you see how he just straight lines it right through there, gets himself ready for turn 9 and going through Thunder Valley to finish off a lap. It's quite a mix. It's very much, like I called it earlier, it's a roller coaster. It's a lot of hills. It's a lot of blind corners. You really have to trust the car. You have to trust your ability to know where you're going with the line. And now we'll look at Lloyd Conway having to check up just a little bit there. It's very easy to lose the rear wheels there. You're kind of going over a hill, all the weight of the car sort of lifts up, have as minimal traction as possible. It's very easy to see the car come from underneath you.
Yeah, car gets very light there, going over the crest in the middle of lucky turn number 13. But yeah, you definitely need to trust these F4 cars and drive with confidence. They have a ton of grip, and you see a lot of IndyCar action out here on this course, and it's kind of made for these Formula cars, and it rewards mechanical grip and rewards the downforce that these F4 cars have. So I think we're going to be in for some pretty good racing out here. As we see a little bit of over rotation there, we may be in for a little bit of that as well. But yeah, the car feels absolutely great out here. And if you've been thinking about dabbling in these open wheelers, this is a great place to start. The F4 is absolutely awesome, and the more of these races I cover, and the more I drive them, the more I enjoy them. Take a look at our weather outlook right there, and the track temp looks okay, Kennen, but that 95% humidity is going to make the surface greasy out here.
Yeah, certainly the cloud covers kept the track temperature quite low, but you're right, that humidity is still keeping things a little wet out there. So the track's kind of building up some slipperiness. There'll be a little more grip build up as we see qualifying and the rubber kind of get laid down. But it looks like we're in for quite a good day and a good race. So I believe we're getting ready to look at points here.
All right, well, let's go ahead and take a look at our overall points after 2 weeks of competition. And Josh Leslie, back-to-back victor there, sitting on the top with 45. He's followed by Greg Meyer and Aaron Van Wagner. Still early here, folks. We got a 12-week season with 4 drops, so plenty of time to make up distance, and you see a couple cars packed up close to the top. Van Wagner's followed by Dan Swanbeck and Adam Duvall, then Jacob Guyton, Lloyd Conway, Michael Hunn, Jose Navas, and Tyler Hagan will round out your top 10. Then it's going to be Ken Glasser, Vase, Odell, Nathan, Embriette Hyde, Sumudio, and Jim Cotcher there in 17 with his evil twin Jim Cotcher tied in P18 with 1 point apiece, the Cotchers. So open qualifying underway here. If you're just joining us for the first time, I beat this like a dead horse, but I absolutely love open qualifying. We've got a 15-minute session here. Drivers can take tires if they wish, and they have that length of time to put down the best lap that they can. They got to deal with traffic, and it adds realism and adds some extra strategery, one might say, to the proceedings. So open qualifying underway here, and we're going to keep our eye on Josh Leslie coming off of those 2 wins. Threw down a heater in practice. He was 3 or 4 tenths ahead of the next fastest driver, so expecting good things out of him in this qualifying session, Kennen.
Yeah, Joshua Leslie, the king of the waters last week. He's finished off top of the board in practice by 2 tenths, and he was looking really strong. He didn't quite have the gap like he did last week in lap time. It is a little tighter of a track. It's harder to maybe make such a gap in lap time, but he'll certainly be one to watch and go to the top of the board. We've got everybody starting. I believe we've got the first 9-10 cars already starting their first hot lap, so we'll see some times come in. I think a track like this, we tend to see it in this Sim Racers Group Formula 4 series, but the drivers, they sort of get out on the track and they like to keep turning laps, lightening up the fuel load. I think it gives them a little more confidence as each lap goes on that they can push things a little harder and harder as the brakes and tires get to temperature. The lap time should come down as we get through this run, assuming nobody has any too bad of an off tracks and can keep the thing going. I would look for anybody with a full run here to be at the top of the board as well.
Yeah, too right, Kennen, and it does take these cars some time to get those tires lit up, probably 2 laps minimum to get them into their sweet spot, and dropping that fuel load, as Kennen said, will increase our lap times. And I really like to see that image underneath our commemorative 95 there in your upper right. That is our track map, and that is showing you that these guys didn't all blaze out of the pits together. They took a breath, allowed some space for each other, and I think they're getting the hang of this open qualifying, because we've seen them a few times all dash out and just create massive traffic from the get-go, and it looks like they're giving themselves and their fellow competitors some room here. As the times coming in, we got Conway with about a 123 flat, Guyton 123.6, 123.8 from Vase. So as the pointy end of the field starts coming around, we're going to see those times drop. 3 minutes in now with 12 remaining.
Yeah, and the weather conditions are really identical to what we just saw in practice, so there shouldn't be too much difference in what we saw from our practice times. And even Lloyd Conway, top of the board right now, he's still 4 tenths off his fastest lap time, so there's still a lot of time to be found. I would expect our pole time, possibly we'd be looking at breaking into the 121s if somebody really finds a way to push it right to the limit. And what we know these guys are, you see them going off track left and right now, trying to find every little bit they can get. Obviously, the off track may disqualify the lap, but you've kind of got to find that little fine line and hope in this 15-minute session you can lay down just one good fast lap. That's all you need, one good fast lap.
Well, and it's certainly conceivable too, Kennen, that somebody could get a lucky break here and pick up a draft at the right time. There's a pretty significant straight between the keyhole down to China Beach, and if you get in some traffic, get a little bit of a tow right there, that could take a couple of tenths off and might get us into those 21. So yeah, looks like Conway coming around again, took another big bite out of his previous qualifying. He's almost down to 123 flat, and I think that is about where we saw him in practice. Taking a look at my screen here, I don't see Leslie having set a lap just yet, but about a third of the way through. Tires still coming in. These drivers kind of getting in a groove here, and we should see those times drop in here pretty quickly.
Yeah, and Josh Leslie, he's really one of the prototypical people I was just kind of speaking about. He will push the limit of this car for the first 10 minutes, not get many lap times to count, getting off tracks, finding where he can push every ounce of it on the curves. And I guarantee in those last 5 minutes he'll put up a time and be at the top of the board. I don't question that one bit. So Leslie actually right now fastest in sector 1. We're seeing where he'll come through to finish his lap, and he runs into a car possibly on a cool down lap in front of him, so that's going to have to make him have to get the thing going. As we know, in the sim racing group Formula 4 series, there is no damage, so I gave it a second, let his magical bunnies come put his car together, and he'll be able to get out of turn 12 and try another hot flying lap with the tires he had on the car.
Yeah, and a little bit of traffic here coming on the pit straight, and that's that difficult turn 1. I was talking about a couple choices there. You can run on that dividing curb, or you can try to just kind of skim it, but it's very, very difficult corner and very easy to make a mistake and over slow there. And I've got to say that the car, this car doesn't have really ideal gearing for right there. It's somewhere between 4th and 5th. You want to get through there all the way in 5th, but bogged down just a little bit. You got to drop it in 4th, and very difficult to maximize that corner, critical corner. One of the kind of fun challenges of driving here at Mid-Ohio. And the times are dropping. Looks like Van Wagner just squeaked past Lloyd Conway by a couple of hundred. So now it's Van Wagner from Conway, from Adam Duvall, from Guyton, from Greg Meyer, and Leslie, as Kennen said, he is out there flogging that F4, and he must be dipping some wheels in the grass as he goes, because we still do not have a time for your winner of the last two. But plenty of time left here. We're about halfway through. Again, it's Van Wagner from Conway, from Duvall, and we should be breaking into the 122s here before too much longer. Conway gonna get a tow here, and yeah, there is our first 122. Holy cow, and look at that toe go to work, Kennen. He took half a second off of his flying lap, and here comes Josh Leslie across the line. Is he gonna set a time this time? And that is a negative. So Leslie halfway through, oh my goodness, going from bad to worse, does not set a time in the first half of qualifying, and you see him spin there in turn 1, roasting those tires, and I'm not sure if he is going to continue or try on a new set of shoes there, Kennen, but Leslie may be feeling some pressure from being on top of the mountain right now.
Yeah, Leslie is certainly pushing the car. I was keeping an eye on his in-car monitor that we have up here in the press box, and he had quite a moment in turn 2. I wasn't expecting to see him really put anything down, and then coming out of sector 3, just right into the final corner, caught a little bit of the grass off right, and looks like now even on his outlap he's caught a little grass. So he's having a little bit of a time out there right now, finding his handle in here at the Mid-Ohio circuit, and I think he'll get up there. You know, he's certainly by far the one that's pushing and testing the limits the most, and at some point here, looking at the back half of the qualifying session, he's going to have to put a little more conservative lap down and trying to make sure he gets a time. You don't want to find yourself not putting a time at all and starting all the way back in 16th, 17th position.
Yeah, and I guess that could kind of depend on your mood. It can be fun to drive in what we might call a target-rich environment, but if Leslie wants to defend those 2 victories, he needs to make something happen here. And it is still up top. It is Conway from Duval who has snuck in between Conway and Van Wagner. So Conway from Duval, from Van Wagner, from Dan Swanbeck, who has parked it temporarily. He might be trying some tires, or he might just be satisfied. He's going to be followed by Guyton, Meyer, Vase, Glasser, Clark, and Samudio for your provisional top 10 right now. And still Josh Leslie and Tyler Hagan, both without a qualifying time. And fans of Josh, take a breath. We're fine. He's got about 6 minutes left, but you know, the psychological part of this is you watch that timer run down and you dip a little wheel in the grass and have to go all the way around to start another lap. That can definitely build pressure and build it in a hurry.
Yeah, you start to run out of time. You feel like you've got all the time in the world. In the 15-minute open qualifying session, you really do get an opportunity to put down many, many laps. But you start to get to the end, you start to think, man, okay, I've only got 3 more shots. Now I've got 2 more shots. Then all of a sudden time's run out on you. So I'd expect this time is had a decent little out lap, caught a little grass out of the keyhole, but I think he's trying to run a little more conservative. There's just, looking at his in-car, there's just so much time that you can make going over these blind crests if you hit them right. You really have to trust the car. You really have to make sure the line is perfect. But that's where you can get yourself into the 121s, and I think that's what he's kind of targeting himself for. But at the same time, you have to make sure you put a time on the board. You can't risk hurting yourself right from the start of the race.
Yeah, riding with Leslie now, crossing the line with about 4 minutes remaining in qualifying. And did he get a time there? No. Oh my goodness. And the wheels, proverbial wheels, falling off now for Leslie. If I was him, I would take a breather and run this lap at a 90%, at least get a time down. But we'll ride along with Leslie. This is another one of those difficult spots. There's a little rise right in the middle of the keyhole there that you have to kind of be patient on the throttle. But so far so good. Haven't seen any grass flying off of Leslie's wheels. Downhill braking here into the China Beach area, pretty difficult here too. And I gotta say, Mid-Ohio is more complex, Kennen, than it looks on paper. There's a lot of stuff over blind press. You really have to put your time in to memorize this track to maximize your lines. Right here, you can't see the apex, can't see the braking zone. Right here, you can't see the critical exit coming over this rise. And a little wiggle by Leslie. He could catch with that opposite lock, and I haven't seen any grass get in. This could be his opportunity to make a lap. Oh my goodness. Flirting with disaster right there, but I think so far so good. I don't want to jinx him. This critical last corner, turn 13 onto the front straight. So far so good. Is it clean? And Leslie finally can breathe a sigh of relief, puts down a 122.9, finding himself about 0.4 off the pole, but sitting in P3, and any fear that he might have had of starting at the back of the grid has been extinguished. So Leslie finally shows up with about 3 minutes left in qualifying.
Yeah, and that was really without any help at all drafting-wise. He did have the car that came up near the end of the lap, but no real straightaway that would have given him much of a benefit. So that is quite a good lap. I'd be interested to see if maybe he can't knock it off a little further up the board off that time. But it is good to see him put in a time. You don't want to see people struggle like that throughout the whole qualifying session. And it was certainly a very conservative lap. So while he is sitting third on the board, I expect him to kind of get through. But like we talk about in every one of these races, minimizing mistakes is very important. Leslie proved to be able to do it last week in the rain at Watkins Glen. I look for him to make sure he minimizes mistakes, but at any given moment, something can go wrong, and it'll certainly be a big setback to where your finishing position will come.
Yeah, and even if Leslie doesn't improve, that P3, pretty decent qualifying position. He'll be slotted behind the pole sitter on the inside of turn 1, and pretty easy to make something happen there right off of the start. So it's certainly conceivable that Leslie could get rid of that P2 car as soon as the green flag drops. And there is Leslie, and the hammer has dropped as Leslie. Forget everything I just said, because Leslie's going to be your pole sitter now, barring a dramatic improvement by Conway. So now it's Leslie from Conway from Duvall. Leslie just having squeaked past Lloyd in P2 by 6/100ths. And a little bit of kind of bad cooperation in traffic there. Not really sure what's going on there. Saw one of those drivers going evasive, and Tyler Hagan gets on the board as well. He put down a 1:28. So all of our drivers have now put on a qualifying time, and not a moment too soon, as 1 minute remaining in the session.
Yeah, Josh Leslie just putting down an absolute flying lap. We'll see what Lloyd Conway, whether he can best his own time. I don't see any change there. He must have run a tick slower, but that was just an absolutely fantastic lap. He had knocked a half a second off of the last lap before, and then looked like he ran into the 91 of Cy Nathan, which kind of cost him another third lap, but I think he kind of called it. He's feeling probably pretty happy. They're going to go back, get ready for the race now. They know they've kind of established their dominance at the top of the board. So really phenomenal lap. We'll see, as we've got about 20 seconds, and there is still a handful of cars that should make it across the line. So we've got some cars going down the backstretch right now into 3. So we'll have a few more times kind of rolling in, and we look at Van Wagner going off course. So that will more than likely end his run. But no, I think he'll get a chance at one more lap. So lots of time to see what maybe can happen in this final lap of qualifying.
Yeah, and we'll take a look at Van Wagner. I think he did beat the timer to cross that finish line, and the way the league is set up here, if you get past start finish before the timer runs down, you'll get to complete that lap. So we'll see if Van Wagner is able to improve his position here. And a little traffic here, and taking a look at Michael Hun here, and he's going to loop it. So that is going to take care of Hun's qualifying. And I'd like to mention this every time in case you're just joining us. Damage is off, and it's something that, the Sim Racers group runs this as a developmental league with the goal of getting the quicker end of this field up into F3. And if you're enjoying this, please sure join us tomorrow for the F3 race that is going to be at Spa. But in any event, the emphasis here is on seat time and learning and spending time on the track. So damage is off, and so if you'll see some little incidents, cars banging each other, banging the barriers or whatever, they get to keep going as the premium, as I said, beating a dead horse again, is on seat time and getting experience and learning how to drive these open wheelers.
Yeah, and it costs you very heavily if you do have mistakes. And Van Wagner able to jump Greg Meyer right there with a 122.7. I believe that's the final car to take the checkered flag to finish the qualifying session. So we'll run down the order here in just a minute once it all goes official. But it's a good thing the way they do the damage in this series. You're still always going to have the consequence of losing time and falling back in the pack. You also don't have one incident in the first minute or two of the race, and now you've lost the last 18 minutes to at least learn something and understand the car, be able to get better, and really improve the league. A lot of this league is with the newly formed Formula 3 series is now kind of a feeder series into the Formula 3. So a lot of the drivers in this Formula 4 series are really trying to do the best that they can so they can get promoted into the top tier Formula 3 league with the Sim Racers group.
Yeah, and tip of the hat to Van Wagner there, getting it done. He beat the timer across the line by probably 2 seconds and got to do that final lap and put himself up into P3 with his final qualifying effort. So good job by Van Wagner. So there is your starting grid. We got Leslie next to Conway in row 2. Van Wagner will line up next to Greg Meyer. Then it's going to be Adam Duvall next to Dan Swanbeck in 5 and 6. Guyton will line up next to Vase in 7 and 8. Then it's Classer next to Clark in row 5. Samudio will line up next to Michael Hun in 11 and 12. Then it's Chia next to Hagan and Cy Nathan, and that Sim Racers group is not a car. So Cy Nathan in P15 will bring up the back of the grid, and we are waiting now for everybody to grid up. iRacing will force the start in about 1 minute and change if if we don't get a full grid before then, but I'm expecting that is going to happen. Right now, Dan Swanbeck holding up the show a little bit, and Ryan Chia as well, taking their time getting on the grid. So here we go. Josh Leslie puts himself on pole, and after giving us some exciting moments, wondering if he was going to set a time, makes it happen, and that is him there in the number 55 car. He is going to have the inside run into turn one with Conway and Van Wagner behind, yeah, with no formation lap here, standing start, and still waiting for Chia to take the grid. About 30 seconds remaining for that to happen, and we will get underway from Mid-Ohio.
It's going to be quite an interesting run into turn one. It's a little untraditional for what Mid-Ohio typically does in the real world, where many starts could happen from the backstretch. They will be diving into that very fast, hard left. It's going to be quite madness. I expect to see a few cars running off through the grass. It's very tricky to do at speed. It's almost even tougher to do when you're not fully up to speed, because you're not used to how the car handles, and you really do rely on so much mechanical grip. But I do see we might be having the lights get ready to go on here.
Yep, and here we go. There are the lights, and we're about to get round 3 underway, and we are off. Leslie gets a pretty good launch there. It's going to be Leslie from Conway, from Greg Meyer, as Van Wagner falls off a little bit. Not a great start from Van Wagner, but Leslie looking good, looking smooth. A little bit of too wide through that very difficult turn one. A little surprised to see that, but red mist is going, and these guys are racing, and there's Conway's going to try Leslie on the outside here through the keyhole. Can't quite hang on. He's driving out in the marbles, but he is ready to take it to Leslie, and he's showing him that right here off the green flag. Holy cow.
Yeah, Conway is looking to have a good run. He may try to outbrake him into turn 3. He does. He looks low. He thinks better of it. I think he's put himself in a nice position. He doesn't want to do too much. Almost coming into the rear attenuator of Josh Leslie there. Did a great job of getting the car slowing down, but you can tell the aggressive fight is on between Leslie, Conway, and Meyer. Top 3 are trying to separate themselves and get this fight on.
Yeah, and Conway willing to roll the dice out there on ice-cold tires. That downhill braking session into China Beach, very, very difficult, and he pushed it right up to the back of Leslie's car, riding along with Conway now, looking forward at Leslie. And this right here, Kennen, I feel is one of the critical corners on the track here, turn 12, to get turn 13 right and get a launch down that front straight. And it looks like Conway got a little better drive out of that corner. You see that gap dropping about 0.2 right now, and Conway's still peeking around. So Conway feeling racy here as that trio of Leslie, Conway, and Meyer are driving off a little bit. They've dropped Van Wagner to the tune of about 1 second. Wagner has Dan Swanbeck behind him, and here's Conway again, probing the inside of the keyhole this time, driving up on the curb. And my goodness, you got to think that something is going to happen between these two in the very near future, Kennen.
Yeah, Lloyd Conway looking very confident in his Formula 4 car right now. I mean, it does go worth noting, as you see Conway to the outside. Leslie's going to try and defend on the inside and will successfully hold him off as they're going through 3 and 4. We're looking on Greg Myers on board right now with all this action in front of him. I'm sure he's just hoping maybe they'll knock wheels early and go off track, and he'll be able to just slide on by. But they're being quite aggressive right now. But back to my point, it's worth noting Leslie had a lot of off tracks in qualifying. He was certainly pushing a lot in the car, and those mistakes will cost you the race if you do them during a true competition 20-minute race. So I think Leslie's having to drive a little nervous. He doesn't want to make a mistake, and Conway, I think, is feeling confident in his car. I think he's liking what he has. He just needs to get himself settled down, stay consistent with his lap times, and he'll have a chance to be there in 18 minutes.
Yeah, and I feel Leslie settling down a little bit there. Got a little better drive out of 13 onto that front straight, and now Conway's got to be looking in his rearview mirror as Meyer behind in that Taco Bell machine got that down to about 3/10. And you're right, Ken, and Meyer sitting there in P3 had to be loving the dicing that was going on in front of him. If those two cars go off, he's going to be shooting right through that gap like a Sunday morning Taco Bell burrito after a hard night out. But so far it is Leslie from Conway from Meyer, and here's Conway again probing the outside of China Beach. Leslie letting him do it. I almost feel like he's trying to lure Conway into a mistake right there. Very easy to lock up and have a problem under braking down into that very difficult turn 4.
Yeah, there's only so many places you can really try a pass. The one advantage Conway has is we look at the whole field coming through Thunder Hill there, and fourth place of Aaron Van Wagner is actually kind of caught up. I believe some of that's just consequential to the top 2 having to race so hard. It's probably actually hurting their overall lap times, allowing other drivers to really make sure they're staying right in the battle too. So we'll have to see if they can keep up as well. But it's very interesting. Lloyd Conway does have the advantage of having the draft, so he can sort of lose 5/10 and be okay. He'll get back through turn 1 as long as he hits it clean. Between that draft and getting out of the keyhole, he should be right back to make a punch every time going into turn 3.
Yeah, too right. And those that draft does make up for small errors during the rest of the lap. And you see those cars training up, and Conway again probing the inside of the keyhole there. And I understand showing your nose. I understand getting a little intimidation going. And there is got somebody out there. I don't know if that was Nathan, but there is value in showing your nose in that way. But that does. That is hard on the tires if you're just doing that performatively. And Conway again is all over Leslie, and Leslie's driving smooth and easy, and Conway kind of flogging that car to show his nose on the inside corner after corner. That may cost Conway in terms of grip down the stretch.
Yeah, the tire wear is going to start to add up if he keeps driving so aggressive. He's been very hard on the turn entries, especially going into turn 2. He's really almost outbraking himself somewhat, trying to get an advantage on the inside. It's costing him a little bit on exit, but he is giving Leslie a fight, and we don't always see that from week to week so far this season, and it's certainly quite welcome from all of us in the booth, as well as you can tell by all the fans surrounding this Mid-Ohio Sports Car course, and he's really putting the pressure on. I think Leslie really doesn't have a chance to relax, and I believe that was Greg Meyer. Just totally misses turn 1 off in the sand trap. He's going to get himself going. No contact to anything. And we actually have 2 other cars off. I wonder if that was somewhat just reactionary. It's a very difficult corner when you have to make any sort of sudden movements to the wheel. It'll put you right offline. But that sort of creates a little separation between first and second now.
Yeah, that is going to leave a mark. And my goodness, that making a run for the border there and ending up in the kitty litter. We'll take another look at that. And riding along with Meyer, and Meyer, oh my gosh, I don't know if that was a connection problem or mechanical problem, but he just drove straight off right there. Maybe he was dropped a chilaquile in his lap while he was driving, not really sure, but that is going to cost Meyer. He's all the way down to P8, and here's some more kerfuffleage happening in the back. That is Swanbeck getting tangled up there. And, Kennen, I kind of expected at this very difficult course and the tight confines of road of Mid-Ohio that we might have a little bit of messiness in terms of incidents, and that's starting to unfold a little bit here 7 minutes in.
Yeah, it certainly is, and it's one of the beautiful natural grass racetracks still left in the world. You don't see all the crazy paved runoffs that just really ruins the confines of the racetrack. So it really allows for the mistakes. You touch the grass, you're going to go right around. You don't have so much room to play with each other, and you see the contact that we just had in turn 1. You can sometimes find yourself with such a differential in speed in turn 1. There's just nothing you can do but find yourself into the rear end of the car in front.
Wow, and maybe we could get another look. I mean, look at our timing tower right now, Ken. We had 1 through 6 that were all running nose to tail within a half a second of each other. We had that spin by Meyer, and look at it now. Conway has a 3-second gap behind Van Wagner, a 6-second gap, 2 seconds back to Glasser. You can see him there, and it completely just busted up the party. Let's see, maybe we can get the car behind and see what happens behind. And gosh, it almost felt like, it almost felt like there was some fluid there on the track. If this was a real life race, and a bunch of cars all went off, but certainly broke up the party up front. It's turned into a 2-man race. That is Leslie from Conway by about half a second, and they've dropped Van Wagner to the tune of 4 seconds. So 2-man race right now, and this is really that development has got to be exactly what Conway wanted.
Yeah, I think it really probably benefited Conway. He has... Oh, and Leslie goes off the track.
Wow. And that wet spot, whatever is happening right there in turn one, has sent Leslie off. And now Conway is going to drive away. Leslie falls to P3 and now has a 8-second gap ahead to Conway. And oh my goodness, Conway, I would love to be in his helmet right now. Is he giggling? Is he taking a deep breath? I would love to know, and maybe we can get him to come up and speak with us after this one. But here we are riding along with Leslie, and yeah, just I couldn't even explain that. I guess when I was out here driving, Kennen, I was trying just a little tiny lift right there to get the car to turn in. I guess you might trail brake a little bit if you wanted a little more aggressive rotation, but that car just over rotates into the kitty litter right there. And Leslie's race is sunk, barring significant mistakes by drivers ahead.
Yeah, and Lloyd Conway kind of surprisingly winning the race of nutrition so far as we're coming to the halfway point of the event. And he's certainly in the catbird seat. Leslie's kind of been, while he was the quickest driver and leading the race, he was certainly having to drive on his toes a little more than what we're used to seeing. And he had that mistake in turn one. I don't know if he was just too much speed, a little too far right, and too much wheel, but the whole rear end just seemed to not want to have the grip to go through turn one. So that's quite unfortunate. And you see Van Wagner is actually maybe caught about half a second that last lap. So I think Van Wagner is turning some good lap times too. But this whole race in a matter of 2 laps just flipped entirely on top of its head. I mean, we had such a great pack for the top 10. It was really still anybody's race potentially, and it's turning quite a spread out mixture of events we've had.
Yeah, absolutely did. And I guess the people behind Meyer were just so shocked to see him drive off. They didn't know what to do. And that completely broke up the party up front. And our SDK timing tower over in your upper left hand of your screen had been completely painted by amber and yellow intervals, and it's completely spread out aside from the gap between Duvall up to Dan Clark. And this one's going to turn into a track day when it looked like it was going to be a thriller up front. And Conway right now, Kennen, being in this situation, I haven't had the good fortune of being in this situation a lot of times, but when you're up front all by yourself, trying to keep pace and trying to keep focus and keep concentrating and be consistent, that can be one of the hardest jobs that these drivers encounter out on the track.
It really is. You have to really be able to just keep out of your own head in many ways. We're still looking at 9.5 minutes left in this race. You can't start thinking about what you're going to say on the podium for your victory speech. You can't start counting your chips, too early, but you're still turning good lap times. You also don't want to find yourself being too conservative. We see it often as well. Drivers sort of back it down. They know they've got a little gap to work with, and sometimes when you take yourself off the edge of how you're driving the track, you find yourself making more mistakes. So it's a very fine line of just kind of keep doing what you're doing. You don't really have to push it, but you don't want to back it off either. Just bring it home, take care of the car. And I think Lloyd Conway is really in it. And we see Vage actually up 4 positions as well, running 4th place. So he's had quite a nice drive. He's taken care of the car, kept it between the lines, and I think he's looking to coming out with a very nice finish here as well. Leslie hasn't really found the speed since he had his spin.
Yeah, Leslie probably a little spooked and probably roasted those tires. He has the current fast lap of 1:22.4, but his last lap that he completed a full second off of that. So Leslie might just be taking a breath here and saying, this one is over. I need to not make any more mistakes and just hang on to this P3 and the points that I'm going to get for that. But you bring up an interesting point about concentration lapses when you're driving by yourself, Kennen. And just a quick story. I was participating in a instructors clinic for a kart club that I was involved in a few years ago. And we had Parker Johnstone in talking to us, and he told a story about when he decided to get out of Indy cars, and what he described was being on an oval in an Indy car going 240 miles an hour, and he found himself thinking about what he needed at the store. And that is the moment that he decided that he needed to park it, because that signaled that he didn't have the concentration to drive those Indy cars anymore. And that was a pretty interesting and honest story from him. But in any event, up front, it is still Conway from Van Wagner from Leslie. Really all the drama gone right now, aside from a little train behind Dan Clark fighting over P7. Clark from Guyton, from Ken Glasser. Those 3 cars separated by about 6/10, but the rest of the field just driving off. We take a look at Conway enjoying his track day, and it looks like he is going to encounter some traffic. And, we didn't talk about that, Kennen, but this is a fairly short course. We had a couple incidents early on, and back markers could end up playing a role here. As we say, Conway working his way past. I'm going to say that is Nathan, but the leaders are going to have to get through some back markers here due to the short length of the track and a couple of incidents that we've had previously.
Yeah, and Van Wagner, he is on an absolute tear right now. I believe he has actually caught up to Conway almost 2 to 2.5 seconds over the last 2 to 3 laps, and he's gotten that gap down to just 1.5 seconds, and I mean, it is knocking off. I know he did actually get a little better job of getting around the lap traffic so far, but he is tearing through. Conway's definitely running a nice smooth line. He's taking care of the car, but you can't back it off too much, or next thing you know, you catch yourself right in a dogfight again that you just don't want to have to put yourself through with such a gap to manage.
Yeah, and Van Wagner not Mickey Mousing around in that number 6 car. He is definitely taking huge bites out of Conway. I've been watching that interval. It's been dropping consistently 4 or 5 tenths per lap. And look at it now, Kennen, down to 1 second. And you're right. I mean, it's one thing to take a breather and be cautious, but that's what I was saying. It's so hard to keep a rhythm and keep your pace up when you're driving by yourself. But Conway no longer driving by himself. Van Wagner within drafting distance now. He's got it to 0.8 there, briefly under
the lap there. You see Conway actually touching off the curve. That's gonna give Conway a shot here, I think, going into turn 2. He's got it down to half a second. If not turn 2, I look for Van Wagner to make the jump in 3. You see the gap is just, they're right on top of each other now. Van Wagner's there, the race is on. Maybe this is what Conway wants to look for. Van Wagner wide in the grass. He's gonna keep it straight. This is actually shaping up to be quite an exciting final 5 minutes, but Van Wagner is just really beating Conway going through the S's up through Thunder Hill. That whole last third sector, he is just tearing him apart and cutting on the lap time. It's going to be tough to do. And Van Wagner, I think, just had an issue as he's fallen off the charts. We'll have to
he
go to him
absolutely
and he's in the
did.
grass.
Oh my goodness, and Van Wagner turning into Goofy there. China Beach overcooking that entry into turn 3, and here is that fight between Duvall, Waze, and Greg Meyer, and I think Duvall Kennen just got a twofer there in that very difficult section around China Beach, and if he did, we'll see if we can get a replay of that. If that was a twofer right there under braking, that is the move of the day for me. That is always a daunting spot. Oh, and a little evasive right there, and some freebies for those 3. And that was a lapped car, but what a move there. And we're going to take another look at Van Wagner here, all over Conway, and running wide at the keyhole, picks up a little dirt, and I think he's probably going to overcook the entry into turn 4 down here at China Beach under braking downhill, and
locks up the right front, just a little too hot going in the corner.
Yeah, drags a wheel, ends up in the marbles, and just when he had Conway falling into his grasp, easy come, easy go, and Conway now 5 seconds clear. So maybe Conway was smart not to push it and worry about that gap because the driver behind him was flogging that F4 car beyond the limits of its tires, and Conway again driving away with a smile on his face as his competitors spin off in the grass behind.
Yeah, and here we're going to go and look at Duvall with this double overtake. Just an absolutely marvelous move on the inside. Then takes to the outside and is actually able to clear him before even the apex. I mean, that is just a brilliant move to just get by in that way. And Dan Clark getting a little loose there. Just slides it. I believe that's going through. Oh, he actually has contact from side Nathan, a lapped car, and that's just really unfortunate and just a tough re-entry. I'm sure race control will have a look at that, but that's just going to, thankfully, no damage. He'll be able to have a clean car and get it back going straight, but that's just quite an unfortunate moment there for Dan Clark.
Yeah, that is too bad, and it's going to be a learning moment for Nathan. As I said, folks, this is a developmental league, so they encourage people to come in that don't have a lot of experience on track, and Nathan is going to have to get good re-entries into his toolkit, and I'm sure that the people around in there at Sim Racers Group are going to help him with that. Taking a look at Meyer now, sniffing around behind Vase, still trying to make a recovery drive here. He has one more opportunity, I would say, based on the gaps in front of me, and he's going to try the grass there. Oh my goodness. Meyer got to be feeling a little frustrated. The podium was in his grasp. Maybe even a victory in this one was within reach until he kind of made that mistake on his own. And he is going to try the outside line into turn 4 through China Beach. Will set him up for the inside of the next corner. And a beautiful move by Meyer. Must have heard me complimenting Adam Duvall and wanted to see that he could do it just as well. And that will put Greg Meyer up into the top 5. So good recovery drive by him as we take a look at Lloyd Conway coming onto the pit straight, and he is very likely going to take the white flag right here. And yeah, there it is. And so Conway's job now, looks like there's maybe one back marker ahead of him. It's just to maintain a 2.5 second gap and keep the car on the track for one more lap. And this race is going to be Conway's. And Leslie, is fuming right now.
Yeah, Leslie's got to be feeling like he really threw one away here. He did prove he had a lot of struggles between practice and qualifying, but I think he certainly had the speed that he could win. He'll be glad to be on the podium still, but this is not the result you really feel like you can get. And Van Wagner, he actually has gained back into only 2 seconds back. I don't foresee there being enough time. Conway's making sure he plays it safe. Conway's minimized all the mistakes like we talk about week after week here in the Sim Racers Group Formula 4 League. It comes down to minimizing mistakes, and it's going to get Lloyd Conway a win today. He really started the race seeming like he was going to be the most aggressive one. He almost probably had all of us thinking up here that he would be the one causing an incident or overcooking the tires on an entry. But he has proven himself quite strong today and still maintaining that 2 second gap. He's going into the final corners. He's going to take the checkered flag.
Yeah, as we watch Conway here set up for his final trip around the final corner here, turn 13. This gentle left-hander onto the front straight. There's Barney beating that flag with an inch of his life, and it is going to be Lloyd Conway from Van Wagner from Leslie. And, my goodness, the story of this one, I think, Kennen, is the mistakes, obviously, but Van Wagner really had a crack at this. I think Conway probably, as I said, he was over-driving a little bit early to try to intimidate Leslie, and I think he probably cost himself a lot of tire life. Van Wagner chased him down easily and was within striking distance with plenty of time left, and maybe he overdrove a little bit to put himself in that position, but Van Wagner really had victory within his grasp and let it slip away as well. So really a story of lost opportunities, and as you said, Conway avoiding those errors that took his competitors out of it.
Yeah, he's certainly proved himself to be mistake-free today, and even Greg Meyer recovering to 5th place is a nice result to get a top 5. I don't think that's what he thought he'd do when he was trying to recover after his incident. So a lot of guys kind of fell back, didn't quite get back to where they wanted. Same way we talked about all the mental head games you get yourself in when you're leading by 4 and 5 seconds, like we were with Lloyd Conway. Aaron Van Wagner was catching Conway at such a rate of speed. I mean, he was pretty much catching him a second a lap there for a moment, and I think he probably got into his own head as well, pushed the car a little too much. One mistake's all it takes, and you're right back where you started.
Yeah, and a little bird is telling me that we're going to have Leslie and Van Wagner here in the booth, so we can interrogate them about how that race went and some of the decisions that happened during that one. But has everybody crossed the line? Yeah, we're going to have those race results for you in just a second, or maybe I'm looking at them right now. It is going to be Conway from Van Wagner from Josh Leslie, your podium for round 3 of the Sim Racers Group Formula 4 racing here on SMB. They're going to be followed by Duvall, Meyer, Guyton, Vase, Glasser, Swanbeck, and Dan Clark. And I shouldn't fly past Duvall without reminding our audience of the move of the day, that 2 for into turn 4. That was awesome, and also a great recovery drive by Meyer in P5. But going back to the list in P11, it's Chia, followed by Hun, followed by Samudio, Cy Nathan, and Tyler Hagan. Looks like he parked it at some point, 1 lap down, and had enough. We'll bring up the rear in P15. So my goodness, that was really interesting, Ken, and I really it really was a couple of different races combined in one, and none of them looked like the other ones.
Yeah, no, it was that was quite a mixture of a race. I don't know what I was really expecting when we got here to Mid Ohio for this week, but that was really an action-packed race. We had really a surprise winner in Lloyd Conway. He's been up front, but that was quite an exciting race. We were expecting a little the race to go just so much differently than what we witnessed.
Yeah, for sure. And as I take a peek outside into the green room, I see Lloyd Conway out there. So let's go ahead and bring him in. Lloyd Conway, what a drive by you today. And you started in P2, capitalized on mistakes by your competitors. Leslie went off. Van Wagner was reeling you in like you were pulling an anchor, and then he went off. So what was going through your mind as these cars were spinning off into the grass all around you, and you were hanging on to P1?
I was just trying to do my best to keep it clean. I got one incident throughout the whole race, and that incident was because my girlfriend decided to jump scare me because dinner was ready. But it's okay because I finished P1 and I've got a steak burrito in my hands right now, so life could be worse. And being P1 is hungry work, so feel like I've deserved my burrito today. So all is good.
Yeah, you absolutely did. And you're when you watch the broadcast later, you're going to hear me breaking down your driving a little bit early. You were very aggressive with Leslie, showing your nose a lot. And my concern was that was costing you some tire wear. And I kind of felt like that's how Van Wagner was able to reel you in. So what was going on with you over the last 5 minutes that allowed Van Wagner to bring that 5 or 6 second gap down to about 7/10 at one point?
I think it's a combination of what you just said, as well as just trying to be conservative. I noticed that there was a fair big gap, and Aaron was pulling into me, and my strategy was that I was going to wait until he got a little bit closer, so then try and push a little bit harder. But with the lead that I had before he caught up, I thought that it would be best to race clean and not go too crazy, risking the pole position. And thankfully, well, he went off, which wasn't good for him, but was good for me. So, yeah, all is good.
Well, an excellent drive, and I'm just noticing the OnlyFans livery on that F4. So maybe people can log on later and check out your burrito. But as we wrap up, is there anyone you would like to thank or give a shout out to today?
I'd like to shout out my girlfriend for jump scaring me. She said "woo" in the background.
Yeah, I bet Van Wagner would like to shout her out for that as well, because it almost cost you there. All right. Well, Lloyd, excellent job, and you are right up there at the top of the standings with a lot of the schedule left. So we're going to expect you to be fighting for the championship all the way down the stretch, and looking forward to it. So great drive today. Congratulations.
Cool. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Cheers. All right, that was your winner, Lloyd Conway, that put on one hell of a drive today. And Kennen, let me go ahead and bring in Aaron Van Wagner, and we can talk to the Mouseketeer about his attack on Lloyd Conway and what went wrong with that.
Yeah, the Mickey Mobile didn't have a dinner today. I missed a braking zone. Lloyd had a mishap, and I think it was right at Madness, and just was getting close and missed a braking zone and went off, and I reeled him in maybe a second on that last lap there. I think I was within maybe 2 seconds of him from maybe 3 and some change, but yeah, missed braking zone. I missed one earlier at the carousel, and that is why I did not possibly win tonight, but it was a great race. That track is super fun, super challenging, and to be quite honest, the only reason I finished where I did is because Greg had a equipment mishap. Dan Swanback was breathing down my neck pretty early on, but he spun behind me. Josh Leslie spun in front of Lloyd, so I kind of let the race come to me and pulled off a P2. Not bad.
Yeah, it was quite a good run and a very nice recovery. We were glad when we were watching you go off the track that it didn't turn into a spin or anything worse and maybe cost more positions. But overall, how do you feel that the track kind of handled? We know the track was a little bit cold, high humidity. Seemed like it was a little slippery through qualifying. I'm glad you kind of cleared up our questions with what happened to Greg with the computer issue going into turn one. So that was kind of unfortunate to see. He really had a nice run. But just overall, how did the track feel from a grip perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I think that track from the 1 day of research that I got to do on it is it's kind of known as a slippery track. It does have a lot of elevation change. So outside of maybe a handful of compression turns, there's also a handful of crests that are very difficult to navigate. So being smooth and being patient really is the name of the game on that track. It's not for the faint of heart. Definitely not for the aggressive driver style. You kind of have to pull yourself together and really be patient on a lot of those, particularly the crested turns.
Yeah, and that's where we saw quite a bit of the trouble happening was the off camera, the blind corners where it seemed like it was tough to keep the rear end of the car kind of planted on the track. But it really had a nice solid day. Started P3, finished in P2. Great job. Second step on the podium. Who'd you like to thank for getting you here today? Sponsors, shout out anybody?
Yeah, I mean, Mickey Mouse for sponsoring my car. I couldn't do it without him. Jason over at SRG for putting this whole thing together. Got to thank all the guys that spun out to allow me to pass them easily. I couldn't have done it without you guys.
Awesome, man. Well, really well done job. You've had a really nice start to the season. We're looking forward to seeing how the whole, I guess, 2/3 of the remaining season go for you. And best of luck next week.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
And Aaron, just on a side note, Mickey looks friendly enough, but I can tell you that his attorneys burn people to the ground every day. So just a word of wisdom. But
Hey,
thanks for coming in.
Just so you know, I'm married to one of them. So my wife's in corporate legal at Disney. So there you go.
Well, you got it covered. That is a hell of an answer, Aaron. And thanks for coming by and chat with us today.
Yeah, have a good one, guys.
Oh my God. The wife works for the mouse. Of course she does. All right. Coming in P3, Josh Leslie, I think you're probably still going to be leading in the season standings after this one. But I know that after putting up that big effort at the end of qualifying and securing pole position, that you wanted to defend those back-to-back wins. And it kind of fell apart about 2/3 of the way through. So what was going on with you toward the end of that race?
I was kind of frustrated at myself. Like, I just lost the car completely by myself. So, I don't know. Just
Well, a solid drive, and you finished it with the fastest lap, and I feel the frustration coming off of you. But we got 4 drops, and you are still in P1. So looking forward in the schedule, is there anything that's standing out within the next couple of tracks? Any place you're looking forward to driving on?
yeah, I mean, I'm hoping to do good in like all the tracks. I don't have a specific track in mind. I need to look at the schedule. But yeah.
All right, man. Well, fair enough. And as we wrap up here, is there anyone you'd like to thank or give a shout out to today?
Yeah, I'd like to thank my dad for bringing me out to the Sim Racers Group shop to do this league.
Yeah, right on. And if we didn't mention it before, Sim Racers Group actually has a brick and mortar facility with 10 center eggs at east side of San Jose. So if you're in the Bay Area, stop in and take one of these things for a spin. It is a great group over there. So that is Josh Leslie, P3. Thank you, Josh, for stopping and talking to us, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, thank you.
All righty. And Kennen, I will bring in Ken Glasser for you. Looks like he finished P8 up 1.
Yeah, we've got Ken Glasser here with us. Started the race in P9, had a fairly straightforward race, comes up P8 today. And Ken, how do you think the race overall went? Kind of started where you finished.
It actually went really well for me. I qualified well, and I'm making progress, getting a little bit faster, getting closer to the guys in the front. So I got a good position, and then it was good, clean start. So that was excellent, and I could kind of keep my eye on the guys in front. So I was all going well until the lap 5 incident where all the faster guys came together, I was able to capitalize on that, and then I got caught up with Dan slowing down on the back there, and then the other Dan ran into me, so I got sandwiched. But beyond that, it was clean drive for me, and really strong race.
Yeah, it really was. And I mean, running down in the fastest lap time was on lap 3. You really were off to a hot start. The opening was quite hectic just from everybody's perspective. It seemed like there was quite a bit of aggressive driving, and then the lap 5 incident occurred, and things seemed to spread out a little bit. There were still off tracks here and there, but what are you looking forward to going into next week? Where do you feel like you've got a spot you need to improve in walking away from Mid-Ohio?
Well, for me, it's getting used to sliding the car and rotating the car. It's still, I'm still skill building in that department. So, hopefully I can close down to where I'm qualifying within a second of the top guys rather than outside of a second. But it's getting better. So, I'm looking forward to having more close races toward the front.
Yeah, and we've certainly noticed it up here in the commentary booth. Just week after week, you've been putting together good, consistent finishes. The unfortunate events that do happen throughout some of these races, you can't really always control them yourself, but minimizing those has certainly put you into having a really nice top 10 today. And as we're looking to close out the broadcast and everything, who would you like to thank, sponsors, friends at home, give a shout out to?
Sure. Shout out to Jason and Tyler for their ongoing support and, keeping this SRG facility up and running. And it's great to come in and hang out with everybody. And then, Greg Meyer has been really kind of like pushing me along and helping me get better. So thanks to him as well. So, it's been, getting some guidance, some tips and tricks, and, just making improvements. So, it's part of the community here that it's really cool.
And it's really what makes the Sim Racers group great. You've got quite a mixture of different just levels of drivers, whether it's through experience or anything. We've got people in-house and at home racing all together, and the whole idea is just getting everybody to grow. Everybody wants to see everybody build a little strength and more power in creating such a great league. So Ken, really great job. Nice run today. Finished 8th place. We're looking forward to seeing you back on track next week.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate all you do. Thanks.
Ken Glasser, and that was a great interview, Ken, and I really appreciated hearing his attitude and talking about learning, getting better, and the help he's getting from his cohorts out there at Sim Racers Group. That's really what this is all about, and what Jason has been developing here, and it's now turned into 2 nights here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, and we'll get to that in just a second. But really good race, and a nice set of interviews by some of our participants. So speaking of coming up, we are not just about these fantastic F4s here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Tomorrow night we will stay with Sim Racers Group for week 3 of Formula 3 competition at Spa-Francorchamps. I promise you that one is going to be a barn burner. These F3 drivers have been putting on a good show week in and week out, so tune in for that. And on Thursday night, we'll have a USRA special event. That's an ARCA 160 lap race at Daytona with cash prizes, and that is the promo tag you see in the middle of your screen now. And on Saturday, Weekend Warriors Formula Vs will be at Summit Point, and then Ron's Race Nights Saturday night, we'll see the iRacing official top split action with street stock cars at Martinsville. And on Sunday, Weekend Warriors Spec Racer Fords will throw down at the Hungaroring. And I want to remind you, if you enjoyed today's broadcast, we will be back this same time next week. These F4 cars will be tackling Summit Point, and it's going to be pretty similar to this one. Tight confines, maybe a little banging, a little bumping, and a very difficult track that really has a lot more nuances and is harder to tame than it looks like on paper. So if you don't want to miss out on any of this stuff, folks, I want you to go ahead and hit subscribe to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and don't forget to hit that notification icon so that you do not miss any of the action. And one more special event coming up. Speaking of subscribing, we're going to have a 3-hour endurance race on July 26th. The class is not completely sorted out yet, but will include the GT class for sure and one prototype class, and that will involve cash prizes as well. So check us out on Slow Motion Broadcasting to keep up with all of that. And my goodness, thank you so much for joining us. That was a fantastic one here at Mid-Ohio. I am J.R. Gregory. On behalf of myself, my partner, Kennen Miller, our producer, Marty Czekala, and everyone here at SMB, thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are. And hang on, baby, the weekend's coming.